The world is a strange and wonderful place, full of life, laughter and love, but what happens when the lights go out? When the laughter dies down and the love fades away? What's left is a hollow shell of what once was, a darkness that permeates every corner of our existence. These are the tales of the unexplained, the eerie and the downright terrifying. Are you brave enough to delve into the unknown? If so, then join me as we journey into the heart of what truly frightens us. We crave the thrill of the unknown, the adrenaline rush of fear that courses through our veins when we hear a bump in the night. But what happens when the line between reality and nightmare becomes blurred? When the stories we tell ourselves to keep the darkness at bay turn out to be true? These are the real-life mysteries that have baffled investigators and haunted witnesses for decades. From ghostly apparitions to chilling disappearances that defy all logical explanation, these are the true stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world around you. The old Victorian house stood on a windswept hill overlooking the town. Locals whispered tales of its sinister history, stories of tragedy and madness that clung to its decaying facade like cobwebs. Yet something lingered within its walls. Strange noises at night, the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. At first, it was easy to dismiss these occurrences as tricks of the wind or the settling of an old house. But as the days turned into weeks, the phenomena grew more frequent and more intense. Those brave enough to venture inside spoke of an oppressive atmosphere, an entity trapped within the house, its anger and sorrow palpable in every shadow. The history of the house was shrouded in tragedy. The original owner, a wealthy businessman, had lost his wife and child in a tragic accident. Driven to madness by grief, he had taken his own life within the very walls that had once housed his family. Some say his spirit never left, forever bound to the house by his sorrow and rage. Paranormal investigators have come and gone, their equipment recording strange anomalies and unexplained voices. The house remains a place of fear and fascination, a stark reminder that some wounds run deeper than time itself. One chilly evening, a group of teenagers, emboldened by alcohol and a thirst for adventure, decided to explore the abandoned house. They had heard the stories, of course, but dismissed them as mere superstition. As they stepped inside, the air grew heavy and a sense of dread washed over them. They explored the darkened rooms, their flashlight beams dancing over cobwebs and decay. The silence was broken only by their nervous laughter, each trying to mask their growing fear. A small porcelain doll lay discarded on the landing, its blank eyes seeming to follow their every move. As if in answer, the house seemed to shudder around them. Dropping the doll, the teenagers fled in terror, their laughter replaced by screams of panic. The sky, a canvas of endless blue, met the turquoise waters in a seamless embrace. This was the Bermuda Triangle, a place of captivating beauty and chilling mystery. Many had dared to venture into this enigmatic expanse, lured by its beauty and challenged by its notoriety. Some returned with tales of strange occurrences, their voices tinged with awe and fear. Others vanished without a trace, their fates forever entwined with the legend of the Triangle. Captain Edward Wright squinted at the horizon, his weathered face etched with years of seafaring. He gripped the helm of his yacht, the Sea Nymph, a sturdy vessel that had carried him through countless storms and calm seas alike. This voyage, however, felt different. A palpable tension hung in the air, a sense of foreboding that sent shivers down his spine. The compass, though functioning perfectly, seemed to spin erratically at times. The radio, their only lifeline to the outside world, crackled with static. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the deck, they entered the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. The air grew noticeably cooler, the wind picking up speed, whipping the sails taut. A thick fog began to roll in, obscuring the horizon and shrouding the sea nymph in an eerie silence. This is where things get interesting. Night fell, draping the sea nymph in an impenetrable darkness. The fog, thick and disorienting, limited visibility to mere feet from the vessel. Inside the cabin, lit by a flickering oil lamp, Edward pored over his charts, his face grim. The compass, as he feared, spun wildly, offering no guidance. The radio remained stubbornly silent, their calls for contact swallowed by the static. Suddenly, the boat lurched violently, throwing Edward off balance. Before either of them could react, the world was bathed in an unnatural light. It emanated from above, piercing the fog and illuminating the sea in an ethereal green glow. They watched in awe and terror as a swirling vortex appeared above the ship. The sea nymph was caught in the vortex pull, drawn inexorably towards its center. The green light intensified, blinding in its brilliance, and then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. The only evidence of the sea nymph and its crew was the eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. Days later, when the sea nymph failed to reach its destination, a frantic search and rescue operation was launched. Coast Guard cutters scoured the area, their crews hoping against hope for any sign of the missing vessel. Yet their efforts proved futile. The sea nymph had vanished without a trace, swallowed whole by the vast and unforgiving sea. Theories abounded, ranging from rogue waves to magnetic anomalies. The mystery deepened when, weeks later, a lifeboat washed ashore miles from the last reported location of the missing yacht. The only clue to the fate of its occupants was a single word, scratched into the wooden floorboards: vortex. In a world filled with ordinary objects, there exist certain artifacts that seem to possess an eerie life of their own. One such object is Robert the Doll, a seemingly innocuous plaything that has haunted the dreams and fueled the nightmares of those who have crossed its path. Robert, with his sailor suit and straw hat, might appear charming at first glance, but beneath his innocent exterior lies a chilling presence. The story of Robert the Doll began over a century ago in Key West, Florida. He was a gift, a handmade doll presented to a young boy named Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene as he was known. The doll, crafted by a Bahamian servant employed by the Otto family, was fashioned in Gene's image. From the outset, there was something unsettling about the doll. Its eyes, two piercing black beads that seemed to follow your every move, held a depth that belied its inanimate nature. Gene, however, adored his new companion. He named the doll Robert after himself, and the two became inseparable. The servants in the Otto household began to notice strange occurrences. When questioned, Gene would simply shrug and say, "Robert did it." As the years passed, the strange occurrences surrounding Robert intensified. Whispers turned to disembodied voices, giggles to chilling laughter. Gene's parents would wake to their son screaming, Robert the doll perched at the foot of his bed. Neighbors reported seeing the doll moving in the windows when no one was home. Some claimed to have seen Robert disappear and reappear in different parts of the house. Misfortune seemed to follow Robert wherever he went. Accidents would befall those who mocked or disrespected the doll. Servants who spoke ill of Robert often found themselves injured. Animals, particularly dogs, reacted with extreme fear and aggression in Robert's presence. Gene remained devoted to his childhood companion, defending Robert as misunderstood. But deep down, Gene must have known the truth. He had witnessed firsthand the strange power Robert possessed. He had seen the fear in the eyes of others. As Gene grew older, he kept Robert in the attic. But even in confinement, Robert's reign of terror continued. Visitors reported feeling a cold, unseen presence watching them. The legend of Robert the Doll, the haunted plaything of Key West, had taken on a life of its own. After Gene's death in 1974, the house was sold and Robert the Doll was packed away in the attic. But the evil that clung to the doll refused to be silenced. The new owners, a young family, soon discovered they were not alone. The little girl began to exhibit strange behavior, talking to an unseen companion, her laughter echoing through the empty rooms. One night, she awoke screaming, her eyes wide with terror.
"Robert tried to hurt me!" she cried, pointing at the attic door.
Her parents found the attic in disarray, Robert the doll grinning malevolently. Terrified, they fled the house. Today, Robert resides at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, drawing curious visitors from around the world.
"Thanks for stopping," she said. her voice barely a whisper. My car broke down a few miles back. Darkness fell like a shroud over Route 44. It was the legend of the Vanishing Hitchhiker, a phantom figure that haunted Route 44. Daniel noticed a lone figure standing by the side of the road. It was a young woman, her thumb extended in the universal sign of a hitchhiker. He pulled over, rolling down the window as the woman approached.
"Sure, hop in," he said, trying to sound casual.
The woman smiled, a fleeting, almost predatory grin. She got into the truck, the scent of rain and something faintly floral filling the cab. As they drove, Daniel tried to make small talk, to break the unsettling silence. He learned that the woman's name was Sarah and she was heading home to visit her sick mother. Her responses were evasive, her gaze distant, as if lost in thought. The miles ticked by, the landscape outside a blur of darkness and occasional lights. Daniel found himself stealing glances at her in the rearview mirror, his unease growing. He tried to rationalize his fear, telling himself it was just his imagination. As they approached a crossroads, Sarah spoke for the first time in hours. "This is it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Daniel pulled over, his heart pounding. She turned to face him, her face illuminated by the streetlight. Her skin was pale, her eyes hollow, and her lips stretched into a thin smile. Before Daniel could respond, Sarah walked towards the crossroads, disappearing into the darkness. Daniel sat in his truck, his blood turning to ice in his veins. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. He knew something was terribly wrong. He watched the crossroads, expecting Sarah to reappear, but the crossroads remained deserted. Daniel sped away, Sarah's pale face burned into his memory. He drove until the sun began to rise, chasing away the shadows. The air hung heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. A stillness had settled over the valley, a silence so profound it felt like a living presence. This was the Redwater Valley, a place of rugged beauty and chilling mystery. His prize bull, Big Red, lay dead in the north pasture. Its massive form sprawled amidst the tall grass. No signs of struggle, just a look of sheer terror etched on its lifeless face. He had heard the stories, whispered tales of strange occurrences and unexplained animal deaths in the valley. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister had visited his ranch. Under a blood moon, news of Big Red's death spread through the small community like wildfire. Speculation ran rampant, fueled by fear and the valley's history of unexplained events. Some whispered of a skinwalker, a malevolent creature of Native American lore said to possess the ability to shapeshift and control the forces of nature. Others blamed it on a mountain lion, though the lack of tracks and the bizarre state of the carcass made that theory unlikely. Sheriff Tom Miller, a man of logic and reason, arrived at the scene with a healthy dose of skepticism. He had heard the stories, of course, but had always dismissed them as folklore. That is, until he saw Big Red's lifeless form with his own eyes. The scene defied explanation. The bull's organs were in a state of disarray, as if rearranged by an unseen hand. Its blood, usually a rich crimson, was a thick, almost black sludge, the metallic scent clinging to the air like a shroud. Tom had never seen anything like it. He carefully examined the surrounding area, searching for any clue, any footprint, any shred of evidence that could shed light on the bizarre death. But the valley, usually alive with the sounds of nature, seemed to hold its breath, its silence a wall of stone against his investigation. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the valley, a strange reddish hue began to creep into the sky. Tom looked up, his breath catching in his throat. The moon, full and heavy, hung low on the horizon, its surface stained a deep, unsettling crimson. A blood moon. An old legend flashed through his mind, a tale his grandfather used to tell of a blood moon heralding a time of chaos and strange occurrences. He had always dismissed it as superstition, but standing there, the blood moon casting its eerie glow over the valley, he couldn't shake the feeling that something ancient and evil had awakened. Whispers in the wind. The following weeks brought more of the same. Livestock went missing, their carcasses found mutilated. The valley, once peaceful, was now shrouded in fear. Tom, now filled with dread, sought answers. He consulted experts, but found no logical explanation. He spent nights poring over old records. He learned of similar past occurrences. Elders spoke of a vengeful spirit. As the body count rose, pressure mounted. Townsfolk demanded action, but Tom had no answers. He stood on the edge of town, wind whipping his coat. The blood moon hung heavy in the sky. He looked up, heart heavy with foreboding. The answers lay in the whispers of the wind. The nightmare had only just begun. The Grand Blackwood Hotel, a relic of a bygone era, once a beacon of luxury, now a fading beauty. Stories of cold spots, ghostly apparitions. It stood on a windswept cliff. Waves crashed against the rocks below. Inside, opulent ballrooms lay silent. Chandeliers draped in dust sheets. The Grand Blackwood held its breath, a place of shadows and secrets. Each floorboard creaked with untold stories. Every mirror reflected a glimpse into a past not at rest. Some whispered of a heartbroken lover, a young bride left at the altar. She had taken her life within the hotel walls. They said she walked the halls now, searching for her lost love. Others spoke of a more sinister presence, a former owner rumored to have dabbled in the occult. His spirit, twisted and malevolent, clung to the hotel, they said, trapping souls, feeding on their fear. John, a paranormal investigator, had been drawn to the Grand Blackwood for years. Its stories fascinated him, sent shivers down his spine. He dedicated his life to uncovering the truth behind such stories, seeking evidence of the afterlife, of the unseen world that existed just beyond our perception. He'd arrived at the hotel on a day much like the hotel itself. Overcast, a chill wind whipping through the air. The sea, a churning mass of grey, mirrored the turmoil he felt within. This investigation, he sensed, would be different, more profound, more unsettling. He stepped into the lobby. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through grimy windows. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of dampness and decay. A grand piano sat silent in the corner, its keys coated in dust. John felt a presence, a tingling sensation that ran up his arms. The Grand Blackwood was awake, watching him. John set up his equipment in the grand ballroom, cameras, EMF readers and voice recorders, tools of his trade. He hoped to capture evidence of the hotel's spectral residents. He started his investigation as night fell. The only light came from his equipment and a single flickering bulb in the corner. He walked the halls, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He paused at room 207. The air grew noticeably colder. The temperature drop was sudden, drastic. This room, he knew from his research, was where the heartbroken bride had taken her life. He raised his EMF reader. The needle jumped, spiking erratically. A sign? He pressed record on his voice recorder. "Are you here?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper, respecting the silence of the hotel. Silence met his question, then a soft sigh, barely audible, yet undeniably present. John felt a shiver run down his spine. He continued his investigation, his senses on high alert. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of wind in the eaves sent his heart racing. He reached the top floor. The air here was even heavier, thick, with a palpable sense of sorrow and despair. This floor, according to local law, was where the former owner practiced his dark arts. It was said his malevolent spirit still lingered, feeding on the energy of the living. John felt a pressure against his chest, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. He stopped outside a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, as if inviting him in. He cautiously pushed the door open. The room was bare, stripped of furniture, yet it felt crowded. An oppressive presence filled the space, suffocating, overwhelming. John felt a cold hand grip his arm. He spun around, but there was no one there. He was alone, yet he knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that he was not. Exhausted but exhilarated, John reviewed his recordings the next day. Hours of static and silence, then a breakthrough. A voice, faint yet clear, captured on his recorder in room 207, a woman's voice, whispering his name. He listened to the recording again and again, chills running down his spine each time. He was convinced. He had captured evidence of the afterlife, of the heartbroken bride who still walked the halls of the Grand Blackwood. The stories we've explored, each one a chilling glimpse into the darkness that lingers at the edge of our understanding, the unexplained, the unknown. It draws us in, doesn't it? A primal fear, mixed with a burning curiosity. We crave answers, yet often the truth remains elusive, hidden in shadows, whispers, and fleeting glimpses. These stories are not mere entertainment, they are echoes of something ancient, something that speaks to a deeper truth about our world. A world where reality is not always as it seems, where the veil between the seen and the unseen is thin, porous, allowing glimpses of what lies beyond. The rational mind struggles to comprehend, to categorize, to explain, yet the heart knows. There are forces at work, energies, presences that defy our limited understanding. These stories, they are not confined to dusty old houses or remote, desolate roads. They are woven into the fabric of our existence, present in every culture, every corner of the globe. Passed down through generations, whispers in the dark, warnings and reminders. We are not alone, not in this world, not in this existence. The unseen world, it surrounds us, observes us. Sometimes it reaches out, a touch, a sound, a fleeting apparition, a haunting reminder that there is more to this life, to this universe than meets the eye. What happens when we allow ourselves to believe, to entertain the possibility that these stories, these whispers of the unexplained might just be true? Our perception of the world shifts, the veil thins, we become aware of the subtle nuances, the energies, the presences that surround us. The darkness no longer seems so impenetrable, the unknown less daunting. Belief is a powerful force. It can shape our reality, influence our experiences. When we open ourselves to the possibility of the supernatural, we invite it in, not always with open arms, but with a sense of curiosity, of wonder. We become more attuned to the subtle signs, the synchronicities, the whispers on the wind. Do these stories frighten us? Yes, but they also fascinate us, challenge our perceptions, force us to confront the limitations of our understanding. They remind us that we are but small players in a grand cosmic drama, a drama that unfolds on a stage far greater than our limited human comprehension can grasp. The power of belief. It is not about blind faith. It is about acknowledging the possibility of something more, something beyond the realm of our five senses, something that speaks to the deepest yearnings of the human spirit, the yearning for connection, for understanding, for a glimpse of the infinite. As we close the book on these chilling tales, let us not dismiss them as mere fiction. Let them serve as a haunting reminder, a reminder that the world is a mysterious and wondrous place, full of secrets yet to be uncovered, truths yet to be revealed. Let us approach the unknown with a sense of awe and respect, with a healthy dose of skepticism, yes, but also with an open mind and a curious heart. The darkness may whisper, but it also holds a strange and alluring beauty. It is in the shadows that we discover the true measure of our courage, our resilience, our capacity for wonder. These stories, they are not just about ghosts and shadows. They are about us, about our relationship with the unknown, with the forces that shape our lives, both seen and unseen. They are a reflection of our deepest fears, our darkest desires, and our enduring hope that there is more to this life than meets the eye. So the next time you find yourself in a dark and quiet place, listen. Listen closely to the whispers on the wind, the creaks of an old house, the silence of a desolate road. For within those whispers, within that silence, you might just hear the echoes of the unseen world, calling out to you, inviting you to explore the mysteries that lie hidden in plain sight.